To begin milling operations, clean the vise and parallel with a rag and your hand to remove oil and debris. Then place your part on the parallel and lock it in the vise. Using the rubber mallet, deliver a few blows to the part to snug it in place. The parallel shouldn't move if this is done correctly. If the mill is not in high gear, move the speed range lever to the correct position. If it doesn't engage easily, turn the spindle by hand until the lever moves into place. End mills can only be used with collets. Place your end mill in an appropriate collet, clean the mating surfaces, and insert the collet into the spindle so that the slot on the collet meets the key in the spindle. With the quill raised all the way up, press the in button on the power collet control to thread the collet on the drawbar. Now position the table so that your part is directly under the end mill. Raise the Z-axis until your part is a few inches below the end mill. Lower the quill until the end mill is almost touching your part and lock it in place. Raise the quill stop all the way up to give you a reference point if you unlock the quill and to prevent the end mill from pulling itself into your part. Unlock the quill, raise it up, and bring it back down firmly onto the quill stop before locking. This will ensure the stop's accuracy. Now turn the switch to forward and adjust the RPM to the proper speed. Consult the RPM calculator on the computer or ask shop staff for assistance. With the mill on and the RPM adjusted correctly, raise the table with the Z-axis handle until the end mill makes contact with the workpiece and a chip is formed. Then zero the Z-axis on the DRO. Never press return absolute zero. Move the X-axis to prepare to cut the first flat. When the end mill can clear the surface of the part, raise the Z-axis 30 to 40 thousandths. With the mill on, apply cutting oil and perform the first pass with the X-axis handle. Making sure the end mill clears the end of the part, raise the Z-axis again, leaving 10 to 15 thousandths for the final pass. Apply cutting oil and make your second pass. When the end mill completely clears the workpiece, raise the Z-axis to the final cut of 62 thousandths, apply cutting oil, and make your final pass. If the end mill isn't large enough or isn't centered properly, it may take 2 passes to finish the flat. Raise the quill and remove your part from the vise. Clean the vise and parallel thoroughly so that no chips or oil are under or on the parallel. If this isn't done, the parallel or part won't sit correctly, which will cause errors. Place your part in the vise so that the flat is flush against the back of the vise and so enough sticks out of the side that it can be machined to proper length. Machining right to left throws chips to the back of the mill instead of on you, which may be a more desirable approach. Now lower the quill back down to the quill stop and lock it in place. The Z-axis should be at the final height, so you need to lower the table so that you can make a proper first cut. You won't need to re-zero the Z-axis because the outer diameter should be uniform. Repeat the process performed to machine the first flat to make the second. Move the table so the end mill can clear the end of your part. Raise the table so the bottom of your part passes the tip of the end mill. If you use the power knee adjustment, make sure the gears have stopped before switching directions. Neglecting to do so will strip the plastic gears. With the mill on, move the X-axis until a chip is formed from the face of the part. Now zero the X-axis, move the table to prepare for a cut, and make a light pass to square the face of your part. Re-zero the X-axis before your pass. You should make the cut by moving the table the same direction the end mill is spinning. This is called climb milling, which provides a better finish as well as extends the life of the cutter. You can now move the end mill, measure the length of your part, and enter that number in the DRO when the X value reads 0 again. You can now cut your part down to the length specified on the part drawn. Take 30 to 40,000 cuts for rough passes and a 10 to 15 thousandths cut for your final pass. This will give your part a nice finish. Perform a few spring passes on your finishing cut to ensure the accuracy of the cut. Make sure to climb mill for your last cut. Now it's time to use the edge finder. Remove the end mill and collet from the spindle using a rag to hold the end mill. So grab your drill chuck, clean the mating surfaces, and insert the chuck into the spindle. Grab your edge finder, clean the mating surfaces, and secure it in the chuck. For the edge finding operation, turn the mill's RPM down to between 600 and 800. You will use the back of the vise to set the y-axis. To correctly find the edge finder will orbit initially. As it gets closer to finding the edge, it will become centered. Once the edge is found, it will become offset. Once the edge finder offsets, zero the y-axis. Now you haven't finished yet. You must raise the quill, compensate for the radius of your edge finder, and re-zero the y-axis. Use the same process on the faced end of your part to set the x-axis, making sure to compensate for the edge finder's radius. Now that you've found your edges, remove the edge finder and put the center drill into the chuck. Using your newly set up x and y axes and the measurements on your print, adjust the table so the center drill is positioned where it should be. Now apply cutting oil and peck drill the starter hole to a depth of about halfway up the center drill's countersink. Next, switch the center drill for the twist drill. Move the table so the twist drill is over the flat, then lower the quill until the tip of the drill touches the flat. Then zero the quill travel digital readout. Now return the table to the correct drilling position, apply cutting oil, and drill to the depth needed to properly tap the hole. You can deburr the hole using the countersink. Make sure to lower the RPM to between 200 and 300 for this operation. After the hole is deburred, switch the countersink for a dead center for the tapping operation. Grab the tap handle with the 1/4-20 tap provided, apply cutting oil, and place the tip of the tap into the hole. Lower the quill so the dead center is touching the tap handle. Now you can thread as far as the hole allows, making sure to break the chip after 2 to 3 half turns. If it ever seems too difficult to turn the tap, back it out, clear the chips, and start again. Once you've tapped to the correct depth, you can remove your part from the vise. Using the file provided, deburr all the sharp edges on your part. Congratulations! You've now finished your alpha test piece. Clean your workstation, fill out your part measurements on the handout, and turn it in to be graded. Here are a few things to remember. Use appropriate speeds and feeds, write down any measurements you make, always clean mating surfaces, deburr all sharp edges, ensure your vise is square and your piece is held correctly, clean your workspace, and return all tools.